Real estate has a vibes problem. If you've looked at the housing news in the last 6 months, you probably have felt exhausted, confused, frustrated. You hear the national market is cooling, but your neighbor just sold their house in 2 days for 50 grand over asking. Or you hear it's a seller's market, but your buddy's listing has been sitting there for 3 months or more with no offers. There's mixed signals left and right. We have more data than ever though. You can look at price-to-rent ratios, inventory trackers, even AI too. But more data hasn't led to more clarity. It's just given us more noise. And that's especially true in today's market. We're in an era of extreme fragmentation, where 2 cities can feel like 2 different planets. Since 2022, the housing market has become so fragmented that the national trend is basically a myth. Depending on where you live, you're either in a race to the finish line or in a long game of chicken. That creates a massive problem for buyers and sellers. How do you know when to actually make your move? To answer that, our team at Realtor.com built a tool to translate the complex data into a simple and local pulse. We're moving past the raw numbers to capture the tempo of the market, the actual feel of a transaction, your transaction. We realize you don't need a bigger spreadsheet. You need a way to see the cycle in motion. You need a way to tell time. Introducing the Realtor.com Market Clock. It's not a crystal ball and it's not a price tracker. It's a map of negotiating power. Where's your market now and where is it headed? Watching this clock can tell you if it's the right time to buy or sell. So how does our clock tell time? Well, here are the basics. At 12 o'clock, it's a peak seller's market. Homes are flying off the shelves. Waived inspections, buyers have zero leverage. Sellers are holding all the cards. Think pure pandemic era frenzy. At 6 o'clock, it's a peak buyer's market. Inventory is high and prices are soft. Sellers are making concessions here. Buyers have both the upper hand and time to think. Like any clock though, direction is everything. At 3 o'clock, you're in a balanced market heading towards one that's benefiting the buyer. At 9 o'clock, the market is tightening and heading back towards sellers. Housing moves in cycles, tightening, peaking, cooling. But it's your local cycle that matters. Local cycles don't move together. Just look at 2022. When mortgage rates spiked, the natural cycle hit a wall. We saw the lock-in effect freeze inventory and demand simultaneously, tightening some markets. Other markets felt those higher rates instantly and started loosening. Same shock, opposite reactions. On the clock, that can look like a stutter, a skip, or even moving backward. That's why we built this. Because markets don't move in a perfect, predictable loop. The clock is designed to catch those resets and outside shocks in real time. Let's look at how this fragmentation plays out on the ground right now. And remember, this clock measures leverage, not hours. If we look at Milwaukee, we're sitting at 11 o'clock. Even though the national narrative is about cooling, here in Milwaukee, the data shows it's about to approach peak seller conditions. So if you're a buyer here, you're still in the 11 o'clock mindset. Speed is your strongest currency. Now compare that to Phoenix or Charlotte. These markets are currently at 4 o'clock. This is a completely different world. We're seeing places that are on the edge of becoming buyer's markets. Here, the clock is telling the seller, the window for peak pricing is closed. It's time to negotiate, not post and pray. Finally, look at Pittsburgh. This is a late balanced market at 10 o'clock. It's balanced, but it's tightening back towards sellers having the upper hand. If you're a buyer waiting for a crash here, the clock is actually suggesting you're losing leverage every hour that you wait. People often ask, what does a buyer's market actually mean for prices? At 6 o'clock, yes, it's true. Homes are lingering for longer and sellers are willing to talk. Prices will come down. But a buyer's market can still be expensive. Our market clock isn't measuring the cost of the house. It's measuring your potential leverage going into a negotiation. It tells you if you're going into a knife fight or a polite conversation. The housing market isn't a monolith, so it's time we stop treating it like one. Each local market has a unique story and a unique path. Our goal with the clock is to capture the local nuance you need to make your next move. Not just data viz, but the actual data you need to set the right expectations. Whether you're an agent across the kitchen table from a client, or a hopeful buyer stepping up to the negotiating table for the very first time. Look beyond the national average. Dig deeper with the market clock. Find your city and check your local time at Realtor.com/marketclock.